Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and welcome back to another true crime video, or if you're new here, welcome. Today we are going to be diving into a case that is as complex as it is tragic. The story of Fiona Adams and the fire that took the lives of her two children. At the end, we will be left with so many questions, with the main ones being, was this a deliberate act or a desperate plea for attention? Was it an accident? Or was it something far more sinister? Stick around to the end because I'm so excited to hear what you all think about this one. But before we get into the case, I want to make a very exciting announcement. I am officially attending CrimeCon 2025 in Denver. I am so very excited. This is the second time having a table at CrimeCon, and let me just say, last year in Nashville was an absolute blast. It was the best time. I got to meet so many of you guys. I had so many amazing conversations and met so many incredible people who are just there to advocate for their loved ones or who need justice or just need their stories told. It was one of the most incredible experiences, and I'm so pumped for this year. CrimeCon Denver is the weekend of September 5th through the 7th this year, so it is coming up quick. So don't wait to get your passes. I believe the VIP tickets are already sold out, but there is still time to get your standard pass. And you can save a little bit extra when you use my code RachelShannon at checkout. Once again, that's code RachelShannon when you purchase your standard pass for CrimeCon. I cannot wait to see all of you there. With that being said, let's get into today's case. Fiona Adams was the mother of 3 young children, 5-year-old Neve, 2-year-old Caden, and 8-month-old Kieran. Family members of Fiona's, including her brother Jason, described that Fiona was a loving, devoted mother whose children were her whole life. She loved them so deeply, and all she wanted was to raise them in a happy, loving home. Fiona described life with her 3 babies, saying that every morning their oldest 2 would run up to the room and wake them up with some cuddles. It was the best feeling each and every day. According to Fiona, Neve loved fairies and horses. She was a happy little girl who was always laughing and having a good time. Caden was known as being stubborn and strong-willed, but he too was a happy boy who was so sweet and funny. But all throughout Fiona's life, it was apparent to everyone around her that she deeply struggled with her mental health. She was known as sometimes being dramatic and attention-seeking, while also experienced very low lows in her mood and mental state. In addition to her struggles with mental health, it was said that the relationship she had with the children's father, James Maynard, was a very strained one. The 2 lived together in a home in Buxton, but all throughout their years of dating, James was known to be unfaithful. He cheated on Fiona several times, and when this would happen, Fiona would have intense bouts of hysteria and threaten to take her own life. She was deeply affected by James's infidelity, yet they always found their way back to one another. By early 2006, Fiona gave birth to her first daughter, Neve. For the weeks that followed, it seemed like Fiona and James were going to work together to raise their daughter in a loving home with 2 parents who loved one another. But of course, as you could have guessed, James continued his behaviors while Fiona's mental health continued to spiral. On April 1st, 2006, at 1:05 in the morning, police had been called to a bridge in Buxton, England, with reports of a woman who was standing on the edge about to jump. When they arrived, they were met with Fiona, who was threatening to jump and end her life. When they approached her, they found that she was drunk and was rambling about a friend who left her earlier in the evening. We don't know too many further details about this incident, but according to reports, it appears to be related to something within her relationship with James. Even though something clearly happened between the 2 of them, they stayed together at that time. For the 2 years that followed, it appears that the relationship continued. By September of 2007, Fiona then gave birth to her second child, a son named Caden. But then, by May of 2008, the couple officially broke up after James cheated on Fiona once again. Fiona basically confirmed that James had been seeing another woman for quite a while behind her back. Then, by June of that same year, Fiona found out that James was still seeing the same woman who he had cheated on her with. Of course, this caused her to spiral. At that time, she texted James saying that she loved him, but that he would be better off without her. This text, of course, prompted James to call the police, who arrived at Fiona's place shortly after. When they arrived, they found her slumped over at the top of the stairs, surrounded by pills. They found out that she had made another attempt at her life, this time after swallowing about 22 acetaminophen pills. She was taken to the hospital, where she was given treatment and walked away with her life once again. However, this time, James became so concerned with Fiona's mental health that he petitioned for custody of the children. By August of 2008, Fiona received a court order that the children were going to be living with James and his mother at his mother's house. Even though she lost custody, she would still be allowed unsupervised visitation with them. But shortly before their breakup back in May, Fiona became pregnant once again, giving birth to baby Kiernan in August of 2009. After Kiernan's birth, Fiona and James rekindled their relationship once again, hoping for things to be better for the sake of their children and for each other. They stayed together for the months that followed, but obviously, there wasn't much trust left between them. Fiona stayed paranoid, constantly worried about what James was doing when he wasn't home. She even created a few fake Facebook accounts to contact him, saying if he would admit to anything. She would become hysterical if he came home late from work, which he often did. Of course, their relationship continued to take a huge toll on Fiona's mental health. By the evening of April 23, 2010, Fiona was at home with her 3 young children while James was out working his job as a waiter and bartender at the Buckingham Hotel. He was supposed to be home by around 9 or 10 that night, but of course, he was out much longer than expected. Fiona tried calling and texting him multiple times, but he ignored her. As that was happening, Fiona started to notice that there was a sound coming from outside her home. She believed that there was an intruder out in the back garden. According to CCTV footage later taken from a neighbor's house, there was a loud metallic banging and crashing sound coming from Fiona's garden, though they couldn't see who or what was causing the noise. They then heard a woman believed to be Fiona shouting, "Hello, hello," before the noises stopped. Just before 11 p.m. that same night, Fiona called the police with reports that there were teenagers vandalizing her yard. Officers showed up shortly later. One of the officers spoke with Fiona while the other went around the outside of the home to inspect the area. They saw that some of the garden furniture had been disturbed, but nothing else was found. There were no serious damages done, and whoever had been there was long gone before they showed up. After taking the report, officers left. Shortly after they left, Fiona then took to Facebook, writing a post that said, "You can smash the windows and the car, but you won't get me and the kids." I do want to note that there was no evidence that anyone had smashed her windows or her car, but that's what she said in the Facebook post. After seeing this Facebook post, a friend called Fiona to ask what happened. She explained that someone had gone in her yard and tipped over her barbecue and threw her plants around. But that wasn't the last time that police heard from Fiona that night. By 11:45 p.m., shortly after making that Facebook post, 999 received a call from a panicked Fiona who reported that her house had just caught fire. In the call, the dispatcher heard the sounds of pure chaos. Fiona was yelling for help while the fire alarm was going off and there was a child screaming in the background. By that point, 23-year-old Fiona said that she had escaped the fire with her 8-month-old baby, but her 2 older children were still inside. Officers rushed back to the scene where they found the home absolutely engulfed in flames. Through multiple interviews with Fiona, she informed them that she and her children were all in bed when she suddenly heard the fire alarm going off. She got up and quickly realized that the house was on fire. As fast as she could, she ran into Neve and Caden's shared room to get them and escape from their windows, but the windows in their room were locked. So instead of trying to get those windows open, she brought them back into her bedroom. As the fire grew larger, she gathered the children by the window, preparing to jump through and escape with them. She described that she was holding Kiernan while Neve and Caden were at her feet. The smoke was getting worse and worse, so she held her breath as she used Kiernan to push open the bedroom window. Luckily, they had a trampoline in the backyard that took up pretty much the whole yard, so Fiona hung her body as far as she could out of the window before dropping Kiernan down onto the trampoline. But once she turned back to grab her other children, she said that they weren't there. Just a second ago, they were at her feet right next to her, but now they were gone. She explained that opening the window actually made the fire worse, so now the room was filled with thick black smoke, so dark that she couldn't see her hands in front of her face. She screamed out for the kids, tried looking around as long as she could, but she couldn't find them. With her chest burning and lungs filling with smoke, she made the gut-wrenching decision to jump out of the window without Neve or Caden. A neighbor later confirmed this account to police, saying that she saw Fiona leaning out of the window before Kiernan was dropped onto the trampoline. Shortly after, Fiona jumped out of the window following him. By that point, other neighbors had started gathering around to help. As soon as Fiona was out the window, she was hysterical and tried turning around and running back inside the home to get her two other children, but she was restrained by neighbors. As that was happening, James had finally returned home from work. He would later say that he stayed late to play pool with some friends. As he pulled up and saw the house on fire, he jumped out of his car and tried to get inside the house to find his children, but he wasn't able to find them because of how thick the smoke was and how hot the flames had become. Finally, first responders arrived and firefighters worked to get the fire under control. Once that happened, they made their way inside to find the children. Inside that bedroom, they found 5-year-old Neve and 2-year-old Caden, both unconscious and not moving, lying on the floor right near the window ledge. Attempts were made to save their lives, but by that point, it was too late. Both children were already dead. Their bodies would later be sent to the medical examiner for an autopsy, and it was confirmed that they had died as a result of smoke inhalation. At the scene, it was also found that Fiona and Kiernan had also suffered injuries and likely had inhaled a good amount of smoke, so they were both transported to the hospital for treatment. Fiona was treated for some severe burns to her chest and hands, remaining in the hospital for 4 days. While there, she was given morphine to help with the pain, as I'm sure the burns and the treatments for them were excruciatingly painful. She survived her injuries, and thankfully, so did Kiernan. According to Fiona, as she was preparing for discharge from the hospital while she was still in a bit of a daze, she was informed by officers that she was being charged with 2 murders as well as causing grievous bodily harm. From there, she pleaded not guilty to these charges. She then went to jail, where she spent the following 9 months awaiting her trial. During those 9 months, she officially broke things off with James. She also wasn't allowed to see Kiernan at all and was barred from going to Caden and Neve's funeral. After all of this went down, officers believed that Fiona was the one who caused the fire and allowed her children to die. The fire investigation led them to believe that the fire had been started from a laundry basket, which had been placed in the hallway near the rooms. The injuries they found on Fiona's hands and chest supported the theory that she started the fire as well. They were also made aware of the long-standing history between James and Fiona. He would repeatedly cheat on her, and she would respond with dramatics and hysteria. After he cheated, she was found at a bridge threatening her life. Another time he cheated, she took pills and texted him, making sure he knew what she was doing and making sure she was found. It just didn't seem like a coincidence to officers that the complaints of an intruder started after Fiona became annoyed with James for getting home late. He didn't answer her, so she responded with even more dramatics to get his attention. She set the house on fire. After 9 months of investigation, officers felt that they had enough evidence to take the case to trial. So by January of 2011, Fiona's trial for the murders of her 2 older children and for causing serious bodily harm to her youngest began. The prosecution argued that Fiona became upset after James failed to return home from work on time. She texted and called him repeatedly, but she was ignored. So she went outside and caused a scene in her own yard so that she could call the police and report an intruder. That way she could also tell James that she called the police to report an intruder. The sound that they heard on the CCTV footage, though, that was her knocking things over herself. Again, we can't see who was causing the sounds, so if there was an intruder, we couldn't see anything, and we also didn't see them enter the property or leave. Then she made a public Facebook post about it, causing friends to become concerned. Surely her posting about them maybe smashing out the windows and smashing her car, possibly even trying to come inside and get the kids, that would make James worried enough to come home or at least respond. But it didn't. That caused Fiona's rage to only grow, so she took it even further to cause drama and make the scene as chaotic as possible. She set a fire, causing the house to burn down, but the fire grew much quicker than expected, and things just grew out of control from there. Maybe she only meant to injure the kids, enough to cause some burns and then land them in a hospital where James would be by their sides and not out with some other woman. Maybe she did mean to kill the older 2, making sure to at least save one of them to make it look like she at least tried, or to make her look like the hero in James's eyes. Either way, the fire took over the house and took the lives of her 2 oldest children while injuring her and the baby. She killed her babies, causing them excruciating, terrifying deaths, all because Fiona was fed up with James and wanted attention. She did something so dramatic, so insane, that there was no way that James could ignore her any longer. The prosecution talked about how police had been called to their address numerous times throughout the prior 3 years, never for vandalism, but always for domestic-related incidents such as threatening her life. She had a history of acting out, being dramatic, and hurting herself to get attention from James. This time was no different, except this time she murdered her 2 children. They also said that the fire was started from inside the home, from that laundry basket, which is supported through the fire investigation and the burns on her hands. On the other hand, the defense argued that a local troubled teen caused the fire. The area is no stranger to vandalism, and this case is no exception. The defense claimed that the fire could have actually been started by the window they jumped out of. It's possible that the fire was started from the outside and just grew into the inside very quickly. They said that her injuries also could have been caused by her jumping out of the window. It can't be proven for sure that they were caused by her carrying a laundry basket that was set on fire. They argued that the report of an intruder was real, that Fiona truly was afraid of whoever was in her yard, and rightfully so, seeing as what they would go on to do. It was also reported that a 17-year-old male was arrested in connection to the fire, but they were quickly released and no charges were ever officially filed against him or anybody else. So yes, someone else was suspected of the fire, but no one else could be proven as responsible. At the end of the day, there simply isn't enough proof to definitively say that Fiona was the one who set the fire. Multiple of Fiona's family members testified, including her parents and her brother Jason and even James. They all said that even though Fiona struggled with her mental health, she never would have hurt her children. She loved them so very much and would never even put them in danger like this. Yes, she struggled with suicidal ideation in the past, but none of that ever included hurting her children. They also played the 999 call for the jury, and it's clear that Fiona was distressed. She was panicked and desperately asking for help. And again, witnesses from the scene saw her trying to run back into the house to save her other 2 children. Those are not the actions of a murderous, violent mother. After the defense and prosecution presented their sides and made their closing arguments, the jury was sent for deliberations. And when they came back, they determined that the prosecution did not meet the burden of proof to convict Fiona Adams of murdering her children. They found her not guilty of 2 charges of murder and causing grievous bodily harm. From there, she was released and has since been allowed to see her son, Kiernan. After her acquittal, friends and family members, as well as James, all went to the media to speak of her innocence. Again, they knew that she didn't do this. There was no way. Fiona has also since spoken out, talking about how horrific it was to watch her kids die, be seriously injured herself, only to end up being charged with their murders. She said that for the rest of her days, she will not rest until the real killer is caught. Now, when I first learned of this case, I wasn't sure if I wanted to cover it because from the surface, it truly seems like Fiona suffered from something traumatic, only for her to be blamed and ridiculed, just causing more pain and trauma. That's what I thought after just reading the headlines. But after reading all the details and seeing her pattern of behavior, my opinion has changed. Given her pattern of behavior, I do think it seems to be quite the coincidence that there's this intruder, which she posts about on Facebook at the same time that James is out doing God knows what, ignoring her. There also just so happened to be no footage of this intruder, at least that anyone can see the person and identify that it's not Fiona. They can only hear them. And it's kind of a coincidence that this intruder came, knocked down a bunch of her stuff, the police came, and then they came back. I guess you could say that's retaliation for calling the police, but if it truly was a teenager, I just don't see why they would do that. That being said, I think that after this Facebook post was made, again, clearly asking for attention because, if something like that was happening to me, I wouldn't be posting about it on Facebook unless I wanted my friends and family to know about it and I wanted them to reach out to me and ask me if I was okay. That's really the only reason you're going to make a Facebook post about anything like that. So again, I think that after the Facebook post was made, James continued to ignore her. Maybe she even knew that he saw it somehow. So after he continued to ignore her, she took it a step further. I think that she wanted to set a fire to the house so that neighbors, friends, and family would all start calling James, making him so worried that he rushed home. I think the plan was for them to all go to the hospital, making it so James was very concerned for their well-being. I also do want to say that we can't say for sure that her prior attempts at her life were for attention, but given how she went about it and the fact that she texted James right as she was doing it, I could see that being the case. Again, also given what we know about how their relationship was. It seems that each time something would happen, James probably gave her that extra attention and probably treated her nicer for a few weeks after it happened each time, leading her to this cycle where she goes, where it's normal, I don't get as much attention. He's out there, he's cheating, he's staying out all night, but when he's worried about me, I get extra attention and he's extra nice to me. That being said, if she started the fire, I honestly don't think she intended on killing her kids. Again, I think she fully planned on escaping with them, but I don't think she really thought it through. She probably didn't really think about their windows being locked. She didn't think about how opening her window would make it worse. She didn't realize just how fast and out of control the fire would grow. So she truly had to escape with her baby to avoid actually dying. I do think that the concern and panic she felt after the fire started and spread was real. The hysterical 999 call, I think that was real. Her trying to go back inside and save her kids. At least from what I've heard in reports, that seemed real as well. But again, I don't think it was because someone else set the fire. I think it's because she truly didn't mean for it to get that out of control. That is what I think happened here. I also think that the cops and the prosecution absolutely jumped the gun with charging her with murder. Charging her with murder meant that she set the fire with the purpose of killing her kids and hurting her youngest, which is just not something they were able to prove. Instead, I think they should have charged her with reckless manslaughter or something similar. Something that says your reckless actions harmed your kids even if you didn't mean for it to happen. I think that would have been much easier to prove to a jury and would have given her at least some prison time rather than her just being free to walk away less than a year after her 2 children ended up dead. But I do have to say, if I was on that jury and I heard the evidence, at least that I was able to find in reports, I don't think I would have been able to convict her of murder. Because again, there's just nothing that says she meant to hurt her children. I think the only evidence we have here is that she probably started the fire for attention, but there's nothing to say that she intended on what actually happened. But that's what I think, and that's where the information in this case comes to an end. So now I want to know what you all think. Do you think Fiona started that fire? Do you think she intended to murder her children? Or do you think it just got out of control? Or do you think that someone else started the house fire and just has yet to be caught? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you liked this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn that notification bell too on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which is also listed down below. With that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.